can be incredibly senior, incredibly capable, and still feel that weird gap between what you're responsible for and what actually moves when you speak. You sign off on strategy, budgets, deals, investments. You are in the rooms that supposedly matter. Yet you can feel that drag in the system. You make a clear call, and it takes three more meetings for anything to shift. You see exactly what needs to happen in a business or a portfolio company, and still you find yourself nudging, persuading, re explaining. That gap between the power you hold on paper and what actually changes in the real world is your influence. If you care about execution, valuation, optionality, and the kind of legacy your work leaves, influence is not a soft add on. It's the hidden lever underneath all of it. So let's talk about what that actually means at your level. When I say influence, I'm talking about your ability to shape decisions, behavior, and norms across a system with or without formal authority. Power is generally the formal side: title, ownership, vote, budget. It sets the conditions for action. Influence is what people actually do with you and because of you. It's how your decisions land in the room. It's whether your thinking travels when you're not there. It's the difference between having responsibility and producing results. It's whether things move because you spoke or only when you lean hard and follow up six times. Decades of research on influence make this practical. Robert Cialdini's work shows that people tend to say yes for a small set of reliable reasons. That doesn't mean tricks, it means using what already moves human beings on purpose. For example, before a high stakes decision, you speak with two peers you trust and ask how they see the risk. You're not gaming them, you're building early input and shared language so that when you recommend option A, the room hears respected voices that are already engaging with that view. That is social proof used responsibly. When you make the ask, you say exactly what decision is needed by Friday and why delay is costly. That is clear authority and scarcity, not theatrics. After the meeting, you send a short note that names what you heard from others and what you will do next. That is reciprocity and consistency in action. These cues work at senior levels when they are tied to substance and respect, not just pressure. There is another reason to take influence seriously. Harvard Business Review has documented that the individuals who actually move ideas through an organization are not the ones with the deepest analysis alone. They are the ones who translate their case into business terms, frame risk and options in language decision makers use, and build cross functional support so the idea can travel. Influence is not a personality trait. It's not charisma or charm, though those help. It's a set of behaviors that make your expertise usable by the system. What I see with many of the people I work with is this: they didn't get to where they are by chasing power for its own sake. They really care about building strong companies, stewarding capital well, doing work they're proud of. And in fact, the word power often feels sharp or uncomfortable. Influence is the bridge. It acknowledges that power is real and that it matters. It also focuses your attention on how you actually use the power you already have, how you frame decisions, how you show up in high stakes rooms, how you make it easier for other people to move with you, not just under you. That is the part you can learn, refine, and grow. And it is the part that quietly separates very smart, very senior people who stay stuck in friction from the ones who seem to move entire systems with less visible effort. Here's the reality I see a lot. The leaders who actually move things are the ones who treat influence as a skill and a responsibility, not a personality trait. They pay attention to how they use the power they already have instead of pretending power doesn't matter or simply chasing more of it for its own sake. So, where does influence really show up for you? First, it shows up in your decisions. Not just which way you go, but how you frame choices, how you name trade offs, and how you talk about risk. Over time, people build a very clear internal model of your judgment. Do your decisions feel coherent, principled, and grounded in something beyond mood or politics? Or do they feel reactive and situational? When people trust your judgment, they lend you their influence. They are more willing to carry your decisions into rooms you're not in. Second, influence shows up in the rooms you are actually in. Think about your executive team meetings, partner meetings, investment committees, board sessions. When the stakes go up and the path is ambiguous, do people look to you? Does the quality of the conversation rise when you engage, or does it simply get louder? Do you calm the system in tense moments, or does your anxiety spill over into everyone else's? Your influence is not just how much you speak, it's the net effect you have on the thinking and the energy in that room. Third, influence shows up when you are nowhere in sight. When people argue about whether to invest, to hire, to pivot, to exit, what does your name do to that conversation? Does it bring clarity? So, for example, do they say, we know how she would look at this? Here's the bar. Does it settle people? So, do they say, if he's behind this, the numbers and the people side have both been thought through? Or does your name introduce tension, confusion, or politics? Many leaders judge their influence by the volume of their voice, or frighteningly by whether or not people are afraid of them. A better test is what happens in the rooms where you're not present, but your decisions, your standards, and your reputation are. If you feel a gap between your role and your real influence, you're not alone. Influence often lags titles at the top, and it's rarely because people are secretly imposters who don't belong there. Sometimes the system is still wired around someone else. You inherit a team, a culture, a set of norms that were built under a previous leader, and the stories and loyalties still run to them. Sometimes the politics above you are complex. Sponsors move on. Senior leaders or investors are not fully aligned. The same decision lands differently in New York, London, and the boardroom. Sometimes your reputation has taken a hit that keeps walking ahead of you, fairly or unfairly. A failed project that sidelined you. A past leader who used your name in ways you would not have. A narrative about you that is convenient for someone else. Sometimes you're in a body or a background that the room is not used to seeing in that seat. And you can feel your influence being discounted or over scrutinized in ways that have nothing to do with the quality of your thinking. On top of that, there is a quieter layer that almost never gets named out loud. Many of the people I work with feel completely confident in their abilities. They know they're strong on the technical side, on strategy, on finance, on the substance of the business. Yet in certain rooms, they still feel shaky. Not usually with their own team, not with the people who report to them. The wobble often shows up in those high stakes settings where the power dynamic is different. Presenting to a board that holds your future in its hands. Sitting down with a major client or an LP you want to land. Walking into a room full of very senior investors, partners, or operators whose respect you value and whose support you need. In those moments, it's common for your heart rate to spike and your inner narrative to speed up. You might talk faster than you intended, over-explain to show you've done the work, stay safer than you actually believe, or hold back from making the clear ask you came in to make. Your influence shrinks not because you lack competence, but because your nervous system and your stories about power are running the show. And that's not a character flaw, my friend. It's a sign that influence at senior levels is always a mix of skill and story. Yes, there are learnable skills. How you frame decisions, how you use authority without overusing it, how you apply things like reciprocity and social proof without turning into a caricature. And then there are also deeply personal pieces. The experiences that shaped what feels safe to say around powerful people. The identity stories you carry about being visible or about taking up space in certain rooms. This is one of the myriad reasons why executive coaching and advisory work can be so powerful in the later stages of a career. You're not looking for generic leadership tips. You're looking for a place to map the dynamics around you, see your own patterns with a bit of distance, and practice different ways of using your influence in the exact rooms that matter to you. The leaders who grow their influence over time are the ones who stop treating it as a fixed personality trait and start treating it like any other strategic asset, something you can understand, invest in, and use on purpose. So let's bring this down to brass tacks. I want to leave you with 3 specific moves you can test this week that directly build influence in the ways we just talked about. First, frame one important decision in 3 lines. Take a meeting this week where the stakes are real. Before you walk in, spend 2 minutes and write 3 sentences. 1, the decision we need to make. 2, the real stakes if we get it right or wrong and not just the safe version. And 3, my current recommendation. When you speak in that meeting, lead with those 3 lines. You are training people to experience you as the person who brings clarity and direction, not just more commentary. Second, do one pre-conversation with a key stakeholder. Pick one person whose support you need on a meaningful decision. Ask for 10 minutes. Start with, how are you seeing this situation? Listen longer than feels comfortable. Then share, here's how I'm currently thinking about it. You're giving them a voice before the bigger room, which taps commitment and consistency. And you're creating a sense that thoughtful people are already engaged, which taps social proof. When you get to the larger meeting, you can honestly say, in talking with a few of you ahead of today, here's what I heard. And you are no longer trying to move the room alone. Third, make one key ask unmistakably clear. Choose one email or message this week that really matters. Rewrite the first sentence so it starts with, the decision I'm asking you to make is, or the action I need from you by Friday is. Then add the context underneath. At senior levels, people are far more likely to say yes when they understand exactly what you want and by when. Clarity is not decorative. It's one of the most underrated expressions of influence. None of these moves requires a personality transplant. They don't require you to become louder, more extroverted, or more performative. They take the insight you already have, the power you already hold, and put them to work in a way that people can actually follow. If this episode resonates with you, that's telling you something important. Influence is not a nice to have on top of your real work. It's the way your real work travels through your organization, your portfolio, or your industry. If you want more of that influence, make sure you follow the show. Leave a quick rating and share this with one person in your world who sits at the top of a system and feels the same gap between their role and their influence. And if you want to keep this conversation going, connect with me on LinkedIn. You can also find ways that we can work together in the description.